Good morning, folks. This is Deb. And this is certainly not the video I intended to make this morning, but it needs to be talked about. So on Wednesday of this week, we had another mass shooting, this time at a Catholic church on the third day of school, where 2 children were shot and killed, and 17 more people were wounded before the perpetrator blew himself away at the back of the church. Okay? According to Police Chief Brian O'Hara, the perpetrator purchased the weapons legally and recently and in short order. And the perpetrator himself, in a notebook that he had, remarked about how, quote, shockingly easy, end quote, it is to purchase weapons at a pawn shop. He had no criminal record. We also know that the perpetrator identified as a female and had his name changed to a female name. So what we have here is the perfect opportunity for the Republican Party and the right wing to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Pardon the horrible pun, but that's what they're doing here. So now we are going to demonize the transgender community. Okay? And we will not even discuss the problem with guns in America because we have our target now, so to speak. We are seeing posts in various places, mostly on Twitter, because it's a cesspool of garbage, that most of the killings in America have been committed by transgender or LGBTQ people. Let me give you some real world statistics here, okay? 97 to 98% of mass killings in America are carried out by cisgendered males. That is to say, men who were men at birth and have remained men throughout their lives, okay? 2 to 5% of mass shootings in America are carried out by women, and well under 1% of mass shootings in America have been carried out by anybody in the LGBTQ community, including transgender people. Yet here we are, with all the talking heads out there on YouTube and all the garbage scow people sitting out there on X, going after the transgender community with reckless abandon, because that way we don't have to talk about the problem of guns in America. And it's a real problem. Okay? The other thing is, RFK Jr. now wants to study whether the drugs he may have been taking, including transitioning drugs, could have caused his violent spin. Let me give you a tip. The statement has been that he identified as a female and had his name changed. You can change your name at any time in the United States of America as long as you're not trying to evade a crime or avoid a crime. All right? No records have been released that prove he was on any kind of transitioning medication. But yet we're talking about it like he has been, simply because he, quote, identified as a woman. You can identify as a cat if you want. You can identify yourself as a dog and wear a tail in America. You can be a furry if you want. There's a vast difference between undergoing transgender treatment and identifying as something other than the sex you were assigned at birth. The real problem in America is guns. And guns do kill people, no matter what anyone says. So let's talk about Minnesota law briefly. Any purchaser of a firearm is subject to a federal background check, but not necessarily a permit. You need a permit to purchase a handgun, but not most shotguns or rifles. Certain shotguns, rifles, or pistol-type firearms are classified as semi-automatic military-style assault weapons under state statute and do require a permit to purchase. Most traditional hunting firearms don't require a permit to purchase. You need to be 21 in Minnesota to buy a handgun, but only 18 to purchase everything else. That makes sense to you? Doesn't make any sense to me. The perpetrator was 23 years old. There is also no limit to how many firearms one person can own in Minnesota. He had been planning this for months. Months, okay? A video on YouTube showed the weapons he had. He had an AR-15 rifle, a Mossberg 590 Cruiser shotgun, a Smith & Wesson M&P compact 9mm handgun with three magazines, and a revolver that appears to be a Colt 38 Special Police issue. Also in the video were two 30-round AR-15 magazines, among numerous others holding anywhere from 20 to 60 rounds. The AR-15 magazine had M855 NATO green tip ammunition, while the 9mm handgun had full metal jacket rounds. Those guns weren't purchased to be used for sport. Okay? Those guns were purchased to kill a large number of people. And that is exactly what happened. He killed 2 people, wounded 17, and then killed himself. If you look at his manifesto, he hated just about everybody. He hated Jews, he hated Catholics, he hated everybody. He had great disdain for the human race. He also expressed excitement or a desire to kill children, and he admired other school shooters. And yet, what does the Republican Party focus on? The fact that he identified as a female. And how do we deal with this? We don't deal with this by expanding background checks. We don't deal with this by reinstituting the assault weapons ban that George W. Bush allowed to expire. We don't address any of this stuff. We give our thoughts and prayers, and then we go out and we demonize a group of people that represents less than 1% of the population. Because it's easier to talk about that and to demonize them than it is to actually, require expanded background checks, reinstitute a assault weapons ban. Nobody in this country needs assault weapons. We continue to talk about the Second Amendment when we actually know, in fact, that the Supreme Court decision that said that the Second Amendment was about individuals owning guns was one of the worst decisions ever made. If you read the Second Amendment and you're not a bona fide idiot, you know it is talking about a well-regulated militia. That would be, say, the National Guard, not Joe Smith sitting in his fucking house worrying about who pissed him off last week. The Republican Party, just like they could have stopped our march into fascism, could have helped to stop all of this. And they refused to do so. They refused to do so because God knows we don't want to bite the hand that feeds us. And that would be the National Rifle Association, as well as many gun manufacturers. There needs to be expanded background checks. There needs to be an assault weapon ban. There needs to be regulation and registration of all guns purchased so they can be traced. There needs to be permits for everything. There needs to be a required safety course for every person in America who wants to carry a gun. We regulate women's uteruses to a ridiculous degree. We regulate cars to an amazing degree. And guns are just like, let's not touch them because we're all allowed to have them under the Second Amendment, but you're not allowed to keep your family safe. And the Republican Party doesn't give a shit about your child, their own children, their grandchildren, or anybody else. They take food out of the mouths of children. They cancel Head Start. Then they want to tell you that they care about the young people in America when they are dying in schools at ridiculous rates. They do not care. It's about time the American people wake up. There is one problem in this country, and I'm going to tell you what it is right now. It's the Republican Party. I will talk to you all later.